Hello, and hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode, If Not Now Wen. In today's show, I am super excited to welcome Josh to join us today. As a serious entrepreneur, Josh is an expert in crowdfunding, investing, and everything startup. Josh today is a founder of Fundify.com, an application to democratize startup investing and empower both credit and non-credit investors, allow investments start as low as $1. Fundify embodies Josh's unwavering commitment to innovation and his ambition to empower every potential entrepreneur and investor. With that, my friend, I'm super excited to welcome Josh to the show today. Well, Josh, thank you again for coming here. I am super excited and honored to have you with us today. So tell us, how does all the journey begin for you, Josh?
Well, entrepreneurship started at an early age for me. I was a kid when I was growing up in a home where my parents were both entrepreneurs, working together, building homes at the same time, working at church, and always trying to do more with their time and their efforts. And so I watched that each and every day. I'm the oldest of 7 kids. And so I was also kind of forced into perhaps leadership or, taking care of others. Anyhow, as kids, we always were trying to do something new and interesting and different. And so that's always been in our blood.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when there's a moment that you think maybe you can be an entrepreneur too? Well, is there a moment?
I don't know about if there was any specific moment, but I know I was young, 6 or 7 years old, when I had first realized that, hey, I want to run my own business too. And I remember I was sharing with you earlier that I was speaking to someone who was telling me, yeah, that's fantastic. Why don't you go to, keep studying in school and then eventually get into a good college, go to college and work really hard to get a good job at a big company and eventually learn these skill sets. And one day you can start your own business. And I know that was meant to be incredibly encouraging. At the same time, I thought that was very discouraging. I kind of came away from it thinking, well, that's going to take forever. I'm never going to be an entrepreneur. And I think over time, I've realized that something that has proven to be true is you're never really ready. And so entrepreneurship requires you to jump into the pool head first and just go all in, give it everything you have. You may fail. You may not be successful, which is fine, but at least you now know and you've learned something about that. So
tell us that moment someone tell you an encouraging word, but really it's not. How did you react to that? And did you wait at it? Yeah,
in my case, I started a business that, when I was 7 was my first business. And so I didn't wait long, I don't think.
So you went ahead regardless?
I did, yes. And some of it I have to get reminded of from my parents because I can't even remember it all because I was so young. But yes, we sold chicken eggs. I learned that a chicken lays an egg every day. And I thought, wow, how much does a dozen eggs cost? And I thought to myself, chickens are basically laying dimes every day. And so we ended up with 70 chickens in our backyard and delivering eggs to the neighbors. And so that turned into a little business that perhaps a couple of my brothers and a sister worked on together and to try to do something that was unique and interesting.
So really you were a rebel. Even though someone said, hey, Josh, hold on, you should go to college, get a good grade, do the thing, and then start a business. And you'll be like, wait, hold on a minute, I can do it now. And you move forward with that.
That's right.
That is so courageous.
Well, I think that entrepreneurship probably takes courage on everyone's front.
Say the least,
That's right. So it will always be harder than you think, take longer than you think, take more money than you likely think it will take, be more challenging. And so challenging on those, not just for yourself, challenging on your family, on your friends. It requires all kinds of sacrifices. And so I think that's what, if you look for a reason for your entrepreneurial venture that will be challenging or will fail, you'll find it. You also, if you look for reasons why it will be successful, you'll find them.
Oh, I like that.
So whatever you do, whichever way you think, you'll be right.
I like that. So tell us, how's that venture unfold for you? Now you're 7 years old, you successfully make what, $3,000? That's what you told me earlier, right? A year? Wow, that's a lot of money for 7 years old. So how was that experience impacting or shifting who you were at the time?
I think, I'm not sure exactly how it impacted us. I think those funds were wasted on baseball cards and bubble gum at the grocery store and frivolous things that a child might spend their money on. And eventually you learn, well, that didn't do me much good if I just wasted it. And so eventually you start learning how to build value inside of that, right? And so I don't know exactly when I started learning lessons, but at some point I suppose I did.
So what's next from there, Josh, for you?
What's
next?
What was next? I kind of went from there to a few years later. We ended up expanding that business, having several hundred chickens, and then
you take it very seriously.
Yeah, well, it was easy expansion. Just get a few more, right? And eventually, we tried some little things. I tried to have board horses and take care of horses, and that didn't work very well. And I even bought a horse to sell once, and that didn't work. I lost a lot of money. I don't even know what happened to this horse, but it's you just kind of constantly trying to build things, right? And
what was it about you that you want to keep building, Josh?
I don't know.
Did you always know that?
Maybe it was the excitement of doing something new and interesting, and I would rather have an exciting life that was unpredictable, that was maybe likely to fail, than a life that was boring but predictable.
That is a bold declaration. That's so huge, because when I drove by the cemetery every day, I remind myself there are so many dreams up there under those amazing, beautiful graveyard. There are so many, not just the flesh and bone, but also the book that never be published, the business never got started. And oftentimes we just stuck on the other side of fear, worrying, what if I will fail? And we just said so beautifully said that, wow, what would life to be if we just be, yes, unpredictable, but exciting versus predictable and do the thing.
That's right.
And I think that really separates from visionary like yourself to the rest.
Well, I appreciate those thoughts. I think there's a lot to it. And I would want to encourage people, knowing and having learned whatever I've learned in the last handful of years, I'd encourage people to go after those dreams. And now you often hear that, but what people often I find end up in a place of, well, this is the reason this didn't happen, or this is the reason that didn't happen. I kind of got shorted here, or I got shorted there. And the reality is that's just part of how it works. You didn't get shorted. That's not a different story than every other entrepreneur, right? Things are challenging. That's what we mean by challenging. And you got to overcome, right? You have to make it happen, make it work. And so that's what ultimately the question is, whether you're going to continue to build, and how much conviction do you have in the vision or the decisions of what you're doing.
Burn the boat.
There you go. Burn the boat.
If your vision's clear now, you know exactly who you are, how you serve.
That's right.
Oftentimes people ask me, how do you possibly be the only person ever left your town, your village? And it's not, I really don't think I'm smart. It's not even me being humble. I don't think I'm smart. I don't think have the resources. I mean, I lived a house of 9 with 1 shared bathroom. It's like, not like those crazy wealthy stories, but I just felt like there's never other way. I just literally will walk around my mountain village and just stare in the sky, see where the mountain meet the cloud, and just wondering, daydreaming what the world will be like beyond the mountain. And for me, I never even thought there's a possibility for me to stay. Either I leave or I die. I felt very strongly in a young age, and I did not even know that was entrepreneurial. But when I heard today, incredible, successful leader like you say that story and say that narrative in a different perspective, it's like, wow, that's just so exciting, isn't it? It's like the fire that bursting in your heart that you know that you could not do, because God, the universe, put that fire in your heart, and you are the one that you are the chosen one to drive that forward.
That's right.
Because I don't dream of being a ballerina or a marathon runner because I'm not qualified. Universe God did not put that in my heart, so that's not for me. But when we're given that beautiful mission, that vision, that idea, that venture, we are the chosen one to drive that forward. It is our responsibility to live, to bring that light forward. So then, I believe we are all like little light bulb on this planet. If you, if her or him, if we can all just be one pixel brighter, the whole world is a brighter and happier place. And when we do what we love, despite how hard, how challenging, how we're scraping every single thing we have, we are bursting in tears, but we make it at the end. Now we give others the permission to also live life true to themselves.
I love that. When you're telling your story, I'm thinking I can relate to your story. So it's not just you relating to mine. I can relate to what you've been through, and mine is definitely different. I think you maybe had it harder than I did because I didn't. You had everybody was in the same spot, right? Where in your family growing up, it sounds like. Whereas for me, I grew up in an environment that was very entrepreneurial, and 6 of 7 of the kids are all entrepreneurs.
Oh wow!
So you could see why this has kind of happened like this.
So there's one weirdo in the family,
apparently,
not entrepreneur.
Apparently, he went to Duke actually, so he's the non-entrepreneur.
Oh my goodness!
He's the smartest one, right?
And go blue!
There you go. And so he, and anyhow, he's very successful.
Of course,
but in a different. Not an entrepreneur. He's more in big business. So
again, I believe that I really believe my story, your story, his and her, we are all singing the same song in different melodies. We all in the same journey of finding happiness, peace, love, whatever you call that. Whether it's through entrepreneurship, whether it's through that you want to be a full-time stay-home mom, stay-home dad, whether you want to open a beautiful, gas station around the corner, those are all a pursuit that spark our soul, our joy. And whatever that choice is, all beautiful and wonderful. And some person who just supposed to be this incredible leader in a big corporation and leading a team and making a huge global impact. I think there's no harder, easier. There's no bigger or smaller. We all sing the same song. We all just adhere to a different melody. We all are connected as a humanity, as all individuals, and the universe, the grace, life flow us all those beautiful ideas, vision we all just receive, listened, and move forward with that.
I love that.
So tell us more about you, Josh. Now you done your enterprise at 7 years old. It's been the practice, right? So now you probably have so much fun at building businesses. I'm curious, at that moment, will you have an intention about who you are, what you want when you grow up?
I think I always knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur, that I would be building things. I think of that kind of work like a kid playing with Legos. It's just having fun all the time and get to build cool things, knock them down, try again.
That's incredible.
And so I enjoy that, right? I enjoy the challenges. I enjoy working with really smart people and continuing to build things that are brand new. And so that's what I've kind of evolved perhaps over the years, seeing, when I started art.com, for example.
Tell us about that. How does that start for you?
That started with my buddy, Mike Marston, who was someone I met in maybe, first or second grade. We met in elementary school. We were friends. And he was going to Virginia Tech. And he called me and he told me, hey, this was in 1994.
Okay.
And he said, hey, this internet's going to be huge. And I said, what's the internet? and that turned into a conversation around what does the internet do? How does that work? And what could we do, with the internet and with that as a tool, right? How would that change the world that we live in? And we thought that a really great application to that was what we're doing now, what we did when we started to build it, which is to sell posters and prints online, which is through a browser or through a screen on your computer.
And that's when you are still in college?
Yeah, so I didn't go to college. So I never went to college. Right out of college, I was working with my dad. So he had a construction business. He was also a pastor. And I enjoyed kind of building again. So we were building homes or
use your hand.
Yeah. And it was more like supervising. I didn't do a lot on my own. Although I did do carpentry a little bit and I did put roofs up and do odds and ends here and there.
But you see the real impact of building.
Yes. You start with, a raw piece of land that doesn't even have approvals, let's say, for example, and 3 to 6 months later, you've built a home that someone's family is going to live in.
Wow.
Which is really fun and beautiful.
Of course.
And so I guess I was about 20 when this happened, when my buddy was telling me about the internet. And so that's when we just started brainstorming and ended up on that topic.
And that's a huge shift from a tangible business that you help your dad build home and stuff to a very intangible things that you just learned, internet. That must be a hard transition, I imagine.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's not it's not more the traditional sort of retail, brick and mortar store, if you will. It was more of a very obscure idea at that point in time. To give it a perspective, in 1994, 1995, 1 out of 800 Americans had an email address.
Okay.
So it should tell you that basically if you have one, you can't, nobody with one that you can email. So you're stuck.
Yeah.
It's useless to you.
Yeah.
But if you imagine a world where pretty much everyone has an email address now, well,
today,
of course you can email anyone. And so how does that change? And with change comes opportunity, right? So that's what we focused on. And we didn't know anything about the internet. Now, I was very fortunate to grow up with a computer in the home. My parents purchased a personal computer. I don't know, maybe when I was 10, we were coding. We grew up in a great school system in New Jersey that had us computers in the school. I remember I want to say the 5th grade, 6th grade, we had computers. So we were coding, we were learning basic coding and enjoying the power of a computer, right? And what that could eventually evolve in. And then we saw that power continuing to grow, right? So you add that to the interconnectivity of the internet, and that's where you realize, wait a second, what happens when all these computers could talk to each other instantaneously, and you can get any bit of information anywhere. So when we saw that in 94, 95, that's when we realized, okay, this is going to change. How do we become a part of that? And that didn't scare me to not know something, because really very few people knew what that was about. So we were going to learn alongside everybody else. Yeah.
And you were not afraid at all. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, I don't think there was any fear in that. I mean, if you fail, you failed. So what's the big deal?
I love that. So tell us that moment when your buddy called you, you're like, wow, this could be something really exciting. You are diving in, right, full head first.
Yeah.
How was the business, treating you? Was something that surprised you as you started business back then?
When we started, we probably got off to maybe it was a slow start, meaning Mike was at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, and he was still getting his degree, his computer science degree. And I was in New Jersey working with my parents. And
it must be tough, like remote at the time.
That's right. That was back in the day when, in order to make a phone call, that would cost you 10 cents. It was 10 cents a minute to call someone. So we actually built ways to chat with each other over computers
for free,
so that we could do it for free. Exactly. And so we paid for our internet connection through, I think it was Prodigy. We were on 1200 baud modems and at the time talking through, and Mike was on the school system, being able to do that. And but we got started. I took care of the operational piece of the business. He took care of the technology side of the business, right? All the website itself. And so I would get the inventory, scan the inventory in the images, put them on the website. We would create taxonomy behind them. I would negotiate whatever deals we had to negotiate, and he would continue to build. Like, for example, back then you couldn't buy a shopping cart. You couldn't just go to Shopify, let's say, for example, and start a website. It didn't work like that. You wanted a website, we'd have to build the technology behind everything that goes there from scratch. So that's what he did. And he did the heavy lifting.
Wow.
And then I took care of the operational. When someone placed an order, I would ship those from New Jersey in the beginning.
So was everything smooth sailing?
Oh, yeah. It was perfect.
What is one thing that maybe surprised you all as you along that starting journey?
I think I think at the time, what surprised us, it wouldn't surprise me today as much, but back then I thought we would grow a lot faster than we did. And so, meaning it seemed to take forever to grow. I remember getting our first order, and it was 3 posters. A gentleman, Clayton Biddle. I want to meet Clayton Biddle one day.
Still remember his name.
Yeah, well, we were very happy and very excited. For 3 weeks, he was the only customer we had because it took that long to get another customer to come in and order something. And we just thought once you get an order, okay, they'll just keep coming in. Another thing will come in. And it just took a lot longer than we anticipated, right? And I think it took a lot more work, and then you go through hardships. I remember once coming home, and the basement of my parents' home, which is where I was shipping from, had been flooded. So I don't know if it was 6 inches or 12 inches of water, but many of our posters and prints were damaged and ruined. And at the time, we didn't have the money to restock, right? And so we have to get through that and figure out, okay, this is a time to move if we want to. And I don't know if it was at that time that we decided to move. Well, I know it wasn't now that I think about it. We still just kind of rebuilt. Eventually here shortly thereafter, I think we moved together after Mike graduated. We moved to...
He graduated?
He graduated, yes, from Virginia Tech. And then we went to Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where we spent, I think, 8 or 9 years. It was a tech hub. So we were there where Duke is. And
that's amazing.
Yeah,
wait, how do you all pick Raleigh? This is so random because you got Virginia Tech.
We were already in the Northeast there, right? So we both grew up in New Jersey. We didn't really want to do it in New Jersey, and we didn't think the technology was hot
enough.
And so we could have gone to Boston, but we also could have gone to Raleigh. Really, the Research Triangle Park area was very hot and still is.
Oh my God. You are the first person ever I speak to who understand that. I'm just get so excited.
Right.
And go Duke. Continue. Yes.
So anyhow, we ended up there. It was we also thought that a lot of the people that understood the internet would be the college kids in that group. And
I see. Yeah.
And so there are 5 major universities right there in the RTP area. And so we thought, hey, we could build a business here. We also thought we might be selling to those customers more so, meaning
cheaper shipping. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but also kids that wanted posters for their dorm rooms.
Yeah.
We didn't fully comprehend. Like in the beginning, we only sold posters and prints. Eventually, we expanded and offered custom framing services, for example. And that is for the more high-end home, right? Mm-hmm. For a home that's saying, oh, well, I'm willing to spend $100, not $10 on something now.
Those are really expensive.
They can get very expensive, right? And
my husband and I, we first time went to those stores. I mean, we spent $10K. Mm-hmm. I was so shocked. I thought those things like $10 a frame, but wow. Sorry, continue.
No, they add up fast.
Yeah. Super.
Yeah, so I think that's why we ended up in RTP, and we spent a good part of a decade there. We were there, I think, 8 or 9 years in Raleigh, and we loved it there. And we have some dear friends out there, and
so business smooth selling once you moved there.
Yeah, it started expanding, I think, right before we were moving there. We saw the internet started catching 97, 98.
Nice.
The internet was already kind of, okay, there's some bigger players in here, right? Amazon's getting some real attention, and they're obviously the big player even back then. And we, we wanted to press down on the gas and go hard at this, right? And give it a shot.
Then what happened next?
What happened next? Well, we moved, I think, in 97, 98 is when we moved, and we started really just one brick at a time. We built the business little by little. We grew every year. In 2000, we went through the dot-com boom and crash, right? So in the 99 was the big boom. The internet was humming along. Everybody apparently was using it, yet the volumes were still very low. Especially, of course, compared to 20 years now later. But we saw where that was going. We continued to press in. We were, the history of our company, we actually started as Pokers.com was the name of the business. Oh. We just came up with what we thought was a cool name. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, Pokers with an S. Then we eventually changed the business to allwall.com, which is what we really started with. Yeah. Our leading competitor was a company called art.com. Oh. And so as we were building the business, we were neck and neck with this other company. They were venture funded.
Were you all bootstrap, or you also have?
We were bootstrapped, so we had 35,000 of basically our own money, or I think Mike's parents put in money. Right? I know they put in money. I don't know exactly what time, but we competed with them. They raised, I think, 15 million, and then got acquired by Getty Images in '99. So Getty Images bought art.com at the peak of the internet bubble, right? They paid $135 million. What I understand, maybe a couple $100 million that they invested on top of that in building the business. And then we bought that asset from them as the internet boom crashed in May of 2001.
You bought that?
That's when we bought art.com and their assets.
How much you pay for?
We paid a song. So we paid less than $1 million for the whole thing.
But they purchased 2 years ago $100-something million.
That's right.
You guys bought it less than $1 million.
That's right. And we actually, by God's grace, they loaned us the money to buy it from them.
That's the best deal.
So we didn't even have to have the money. We just said, "Oh, we'll pay you as we go," and so that worked out really well.
That's insane.
Yeah, and we
in 2 years, $100 million evaluation like this.
Yeah, disappeared in the blink of an eye.
Wow.
And I think that's a testament to a company that's focused on something different. They had a different focus, and this was a small product inside of a big company. And I remember when we tried to raise money, people would often ask us, "Well, how can you beat this company, art.com, that has essentially unlimited resources?" Well, the reality is these companies, they do perhaps have seemingly unlimited resources, but at the same time, kind of putting good money after bad doesn't help the situation, right?
100%.
So wrong strategy, you're in big trouble.
You must feel incredibly proud the moment you all acquire that asset.
That was a big day, for sure. That was a big day for us. When we got that domain name, we were very excited. We immediately doubled. The business size doubled that day. And we went on that year, we quadrupled.
Wow.
So we had a big growth year, and just continued to, build it from there.
That's amazing. So tell us how the all business unfolding from there.
So from there, a few years later, we after a few more years of growth, we ended up raising our first round of capital.
How much you raising?
We went out to raise just a few million, but we ended up raising just over 30 million.
Wow!
And it was we had a bigger business. It was profitable. We were in a good spot.
Why do you need money then?
Some of it was for liquidity for ourselves and for others that were part of the company, and then some of it was with these big dreams of trying to build the business bigger.
Yeah.
And so at the same time, we now had another competitor called All Posters, and they also raised capital.
Got it. So you want to make sure competing, marketing, ads, things like that.
I think that's right. So, and then it didn't take long. It was only, I think, 3 months after we both raised our capital that we ended up merging the companies together.
Wow, my God.
And so we thought to ourselves, the conversation was very much like, "Hey, listen, we both raised this kind of money. We can spend it against each other,
or win together.
And Google can end up with our money. Right? Or we can kind of join and we'll have the capital and we can do as we, then we've got a different scenario." And
I love that. Win, win, win is always better than zero-sum game. What's next?
Well, then as part of that, I actually was not the CEO anymore of the company. So that changed a lot of dynamics.
Was it hard for you?
Initially it wasn't hard. I didn't have as hard of a thought with the whole perspective of, somebody that was going to run this, that had a perhaps better experience than me and could do a great job. I'm all for smaller piece of a bigger pie, right? I'm all for that.
Yeah.
It for us, it didn't. I don't think it worked out as well as we would have liked it to. So it's a lot of what happened there.
This is a culture merging, the different
totally different
vision,
companies.
different way to operate.
That's right.
Merging is always beautiful set on the paper and harder to execute in life.
That's right. Different leadership styles, different, like you said, cultures are totally different.
Yeah.
And so we experienced some of the challenges that are part of that. And But at the same time, we watched the business grow.
Yeah.
And so it was successful. I'm the only founder that continued on the board throughout the life of the company.
Hmm.
And yeah, so.
Did you have an exit afterwards?
We did. So we had an exit that I didn't vote for. So we sold to Walmart, but it was really for a song, frankly. And so it was
what a song means.
Song meaning like for nothing.
Why?
You say
that.
It was an outcome where the company had been around for a long time.
Yeah, 20-something years already.
Yes, exactly. And so there was no more founders running the company. So that changes the dynamics. We had different personalities running it. And frankly, it didn't go well. So they, kind of turned around and didn't go like I think everyone, of course, would hope it had gone a lot better.
Yeah.
And so that it turned into Walmart owning it. They've now, since they bought it, they've sold it to someone else. Now one of our vendors owns it now, or one of our prior vendors own it now. So that's...
And just so for entrepreneurs who listen to this episode, right, just explain to us what do you mean by, because people say, wow, you have an asset, that sounds cool. Walmart, reputable company, right? What do you mean by, like, how does those merger happen behind the scene that, potentially impact to founders in terms of, her or his business regarding how do you think about those transactions? And before we lead to the next venture.
No, that's a really thoughtful and deep question. And so I'm not exactly sure how to answer that. I can say, for starters, that, there's a hierarchy in companies, right? There's a board that most people say, oh, the board is the one that calls the shots. The shareholders ultimately appoint the board, but according to certain rules that are in the bylaws of the company. And so venture firms, often when venture firms put money in, they require board seats. So they say, okay, I'm going to take one, or I'm going to take 2 board seats. And and now they can control some aspect of the company by doing that, right? And that's pretty natural. That's how that works.
Yeah.
There are differing points of views with people who have different bosses, right? And that's what happens as companies get bigger. They've got sort of different scenarios that different people are thinking about different things. And so it gets complex. It can be complicated as to how those exits happen. But yes, exits happen in all different ways, right?
So it's not always favorable.
Favorable, no, not always favorable, and not always what it seems.
And was it difficult for you to, again, something that you personally, you and your team built for 20-something years from different stage of its since its inception to grow, to prosper, to be a household name that everybody know, to walk away in a maybe not an ideal scenario that you were hoping.
Right.
Was it hard to walk away from that?
At that point in time, that was in 2018. I didn't have there was not much that I could do other than pound the table and ask the board to not make this decision. And unfortunately, they made a different decision that was not in the best interest of the shareholders. And so that's the problem that happened there. And so that was the hard part to kind of deal with and rectify and kind of reconcile. We make decisions all the time, and we live and we die by them, right? And so that's part of how that works.
So how did you reconcile personally?
Well, personally, there's nothing to reconcile. Like, what can I do?
Yeah.
Right. That's a challenging situation. We did what we could, and then we move on. And what do you have next, right? What are you going to do next? And
so tell us what's next after you finish that chapter of your life, which is a big part, right? 20-something years, 2018. What's in your mind and what's next?
Yeah, well, now I am building and getting ready to launch a company called Fundify.
Yeah, tell us. Well, wait, that's 5 years in between. What are you doing between that?
We've been starting now. We started Fundify actually in 2016, kind of thinking through the idea. It was more of a
concept.
Yeah, initially it was a concept. It was a thought. It was, hey, let's do some research on this. Let's spend some time thinking about it. Not spending every hour of every day, but thinking about kind of what we could do and what might it be.
Yeah.
At the same time, watching crowdfunding laws changing and coming about, and learning about the space. And so that's why it took several years to sort of get to the place that it is today.
When did you decide to pull the trigger?
Well, a few years ago, we became what they call a regulated crowdfunding portal. So we are a FINRA approved and SEC approved funding portal. What that means is we can exchange capital from non-accredited investors or accredited.
Which is amazing.
In exchange for equity in startups. And that's something that wasn't previously available. It was illegal, essentially, to invest like that prior to this. And so I was passionate about bringing that to the world and allowing everybody to sort of have the ability to invest their capital, even if it was smaller amounts of capital, as a pool, have that invested into the best startups that they could find. So
help us understand a little bit more about Fundify, which is really exciting. What's the difference between that versus a Kickstarter, for example?
So that's a great question. So Kickstarter, Indiegogo, these companies are what you would traditionally think of as crowdfunding sites. However, they are what we would classify as rewards-based crowdfunding. So you are giving money for a future product that you might get. You are never on Kickstarter or Indiegogo getting equity.
Yeah.
So you are essentially taking equity risk because the company may or may not deliver the product in 6 months to you. But you are only getting the product as a reward, and the beneficiary of that investment that you make is really the company that's raising the money.
That's interesting to think about it.
Yeah, but it's nice because you're also helping the company get out there, and that's kind of fun. But it's usually smaller, $100, $50, that sort of investment. You're prepaying for something. But again, that company becomes very successful, and you're
in the part of the journey.
That's right. You're part of that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's exciting, and that gave them a big start. But what equity crowdfunding now does, like what we're doing at Fundify, is we are allowing you to get equity for that, right? So you can put money into a company and get equity from that company and hopefully reap the rewards in the long term that can be very positive from those companies and their growth.
That's really exciting because I think, investing is such a big word for a lot of people and not everyone, right? Having those incredible experience like yourself, being through building company, being through raising, being through all that process. And just walk us through, like, how was that like? So I just put in $1,000, $500 in and boom, I got a email. Like, tell us that customer journey.
Yeah, the way that would work to date, right, the way that works is you come to the website, you see dozens, if not hundreds of companies that are raising capital. You want to learn more, so you click here, you watch a video, you read some documents, you see 10 more documents that you can read, and you can think through and look through, and then you are ultimately facing the decision that says, hey, I want to make an investment. Maybe it's $100 or $500 minimum investment. You have to make a decision whether or not you're going to pull the trigger and deposit X amount of funds and buy some equity in that startup.
Nice.
And that's the process as it works today. And there's a problem with that process. And what the challenge is there is, well, if we take it a step back, the first question is, well, do you want to be invested in this asset class, right? So if we're kind of assuming you might want to be. And it's the right assumption, in my opinion, because if you look at the data of startup investing, early stage startup investing is returning 25 to 30% annual returns. So they're phenomenal returns.
That's a lot higher than S&P 500.
Oh, way higher, almost triple, right? At the same time, it's completely different in this regard than S&P. It's completely illiquid. So any money you put in there, you're not able to get out tomorrow.
You're stuck.
That's right. You're stuck. Good or bad, right?
Yeah.
Now, if it returns 30% or more annually and you're stuck, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because when the payday comes, that can be really beneficial, right?
Yeah.
And so the challenge then, though, becomes what that shows you in the data side, if you run the data models, you learn that you really need to be invested in 40 to 50 startups.
Per year?
Just in total.
Okay.
Ideally, it would be over a long period of time, but maybe per year, every year.
You said 40 to 50?
40 to 50 is kind of the minimum amount.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Otherwise,
despite the amount of money you put in?
Yeah, well, that's kind of with the assumption that says whatever amount you're putting in, you're kind of equally weighted across the board, right?
The risk.
That's right.
To the maximum.
That's right. Because most companies in the startup world, 60% of the companies, so 3 out of 5 companies are going to fail. You're going to lose your money.
Is it 3 out of 5? I thought it was 9 out of 10.
A lot of people say that. It's 9 out of 10 that don't return huge returns.
Okay, got it.
And it really depends.
3 out of 5 is for sure 0. Yeah, some will make it.
That's
some
right.
exceed.
Right. That means maybe a 2x return.
Yeah.
Or a 5x return.
Yeah.
But you've got, I think the data shows a 7% or 1 out of 14 startups end up returning significant returns.
1 out of 14. Okay.
So you want to end up with a large portfolio of startups that you've invested in. Well, if you're looking at a website that has hundreds of companies,
it's tough.
And you have to spend time, and it might seem exciting to do this at first. It's a lot of work.
Oh, 100%. After like 3 hours, I mean, you can't even tell. Is it AI? Is it deep tech? Is it healthcare? You have no idea.
That's right. You don't know. And you don't know enough about these industries. I don't know enough about every industry out there. You need to surround yourself with experts. You need to build a network of people you can talk to and discuss, hey, this is a battery technology that seems really interesting. Maybe we should call that guy that works at Samsung in the battery department that we know.
Yeah.
That sounds like, let's get his opinion.
Yeah.
But it's more professionalized. Now, if you're making a $100 investment,
you don't have resources to do that.
Not resources. It's already too much of your time to decide how much you're going to put, if you're going to put your 100 or not. This is why accredited investors, wealthier individuals, will invest their money into a venture fund. So they put money into a venture fund, and then the managers of that venture fund get paid. They get paid a fee, and then they spend the time evaluating all the companies that come to them or that they can find and decide which ones are the best. And then they invest the money on behalf of those wealthier individuals. That, however, is not available to the non-accredited individuals until now. So what we are launching is the first subscription-based product where individuals can join, invest with no minimum dollar amount. You can invest whatever suits you well. We take your capital, put it alongside everyone else that's a Fundify investor, put all that capital together and negotiate on behalf of the entire group to try to get the best terms for you into the best companies that we can find. And you as a customer, as an investor, can set it and forget it. You say, I'm going to put $50 a month or I'm going to put $500 a month. I don't have to do any more work than that. You can sit back.
That's exciting.
And we'll build that portfolio for you with the long-term prospect of getting you many, many companies in your portfolio, 50, 100, 1,000 eventually.
So what's the return that any folks can expect? Of course, it varies.
Well, it will vary, and there are no guarantees, as you can imagine, as how that works. But we expect the returns to be in the middle of the bell curve, or better. So we're going to try to get better, which is 25 to 30% annual returns.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. We're thrilled with, and that, by the way, is what the wealthy are getting now. They're investing generally. Venture firms generally invest in later stage companies, so they end up with a little bit lower returns. That might be 15 to 20% range. But the earlier stage you go in startups, the higher the returns are. And by the way, the higher the risk is.
Of course.
Right. So that's it matches. But at the end of the day, you're still returning this 25 to 30%.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. And Josh, congrats for you and your team. I know probably spent so much hard working to just be the first of anything. And the fact that you are breaking grounds, you all democratized how this whole process works, the black box for everyone thinking about investing and not allow everybody who want to be part of the society journey able to say, yes, I'm going to support this, and having a very thoughtful path forward, which is really just admirable. Thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I'm curious, right, Josh, back to your story. I'm curious, along the last, decades of you building your career professionally and from one journey to another, I'm curious, what do you think is your superpower?
My superpower? Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
I think I don't know exactly how to answer that. I would say I love to build. I talked about that earlier. I'm a great executor. It's a combination of visionary and executor, and building things and not taking current standards into account, right? So if these are the rules as they are now, questioning those and saying, hey, does that have to be this way? And why, right? In our case with Fundify, but why can the average American not invest in this asset class as a whole and earn these high returns? This seems ridiculous.
Agreed.
So essentially, the wealthy will keep getting wealthier and create this bigger gap. That doesn't seem right to me. The government with the SEC and the rules that they're trying to fix that, but they're not fully there yet, right? This model will start to make that happen.
That's incredible. I'm curious, what was success meant for you? And with that, do you think you are successful?
What does success mean? For me, success is different than really about the business. I mean, if you heard me talking to my boys, I have 3 boys. They're 13, 11, and 9. I would tell you that success in life is about living a life according to what I believe, which is God's word, meaning we follow the Bible. We try to live a life that's honorable in that way. And my success is in my kids and my family and the way we live life. If we're living that life in a Christ-like way, that's more important to me than monetary success. All these things that we have will one day disappear. We will all end up in that graveyard that you mentioned passing. And what will we have? Nobody takes their hearse, to them. If they go to heaven, let's say, doesn't go with them, right? It's left here on earth. And so it's a little bit frivolous in a way, right? We fight to get all this monetary gain, and it seems like that's the measure of success. And to some extent it is, right? To some extent it is part of what we do, and we can do more with that. And I do aspire for those great things, but not at the expense of, gaining the whole world but losing your soul. So for me, that's how I measure success and how we think about that.
That's big. I often said, I think we come to this world naked, also leave the world naked. We're not taking our house, our car, our cell phone with us anyhow. And it's a journey, it's an experience that enrich our soul. And not only that, but hopefully through that journey, we can enrich other people's life around us.
Absolutely.
Whether through customers, our family, our neighbors, big or small, it's one person at a time, one moment at a time.
I love that.
My last question for you, Josh, is as you are today, building some amazing platforms, and you yourself were, a very accomplished entrepreneur, while you also mentor many others who in the process of starting and, growing their business. What one piece of advice you would speak to other fellow entrepreneur, fellow visionary who are maybe in the process of starting business, or maybe they are in the trenches, they are making those hard choices. What would you tell them? One thing, if you can only choose one thing.
If I could only choose, that's where it gets really hard, right? Because there are so much that you need to do and you need to do well. If I could only say one, I would say don't make any fatal decisions. But that seems maybe too obvious, but that is part of how I've thought about things, meaning when I have a potentially fatal decision, we think harder about it. So we evaluate in that context the decisions that we have to make. But I would tell you, be very careful who you raise money from. Those can be
elaborate. What do you mean?
Well, those can be fatal decisions. Money, and I will tell you, I've often heard a saying that says, "Oh, everybody, this entrepreneur, that entrepreneur, they all want to raise smart money." Everybody says that, but at the same time,
they don't.
But I've never met an entrepreneur that said no to money. They're very rare that they say no to what they call dumb money.
Okay, so to explain that to us, what is quote unquote dumb money in your perspective? How the entrepreneur can differentiate, that is actually dumb, I should not say yes to that?
Yeah, there are different definitions of that. And there are some that maybe somebody just doesn't understand or that won't be harmful to you. And there's different ways to raise money. It might be somebody who doesn't understand your business. That's not the end of the world. Just understand what that might come with. It might come with more of an education to that investor that wants updates regularly. Yeah. To others, it might be, well, you're raising money and it's someone that doesn't understand the space, or worse, someone who is smart and now can influence your decision. When you give up board seats, those are very important things.
Yeah.
So depending on how much capital you're raising, you're going to be very careful with how you raise that, who you raise it from, and what you're doing. With Fundify, we're not taking any board seats with our capital raised. We are, though, however, and this would be one of the thoughts that came to mind when you said, what is one piece of advice? I would share a stat that said that companies that have advisors that help to advise that company, if entrepreneurs that have advisors are 3 times more likely to have an exit, which is a phenomenal piece of statistics if you think about that. When you're giving up 0.25% to an advisor, but you're now 3 times more likely that the other 99.75% of the company will have an exit. It's the probability of an exit that is now increased, not necessarily the amount of increase, which, by the way, that is also, everyone talks about the small, I said it earlier, a small slice of the pie, a smaller slice of a bigger pie. That seems very obvious. One thing I don't think I appreciated when I was younger is the probability of success that gets increased when you have advisors around you. And so with many advisors comes greater knowledge and greater ability to actually succeed. And so I would encourage entrepreneurs at all stages to have people around them that are not yes men, not yes women, but people that would challenge your course and would say, I've had some of the best people, some people that I respect very much, tell me how much they disagree with me. And those have been really great reflections. Maybe at first I get a little upset.
Yeah.
But eventually if I say, okay, wait, hold on. We've got the best, everyone's got the best of intentions here.
Yeah.
How can we take that to reflect on that, to make changes accordingly, to hopefully end up with a better product, turns into a better situation and a better company in a whole.
So just a small follow-up question on that. How do founders know the right advisor to get on board? And I assume those are paid advisors, not of friends, not of free.
Well, I'd say
right?
it could be both. So I wouldn't think that you couldn't be a unpaid advisor. However, I like to pay advisors because now they got skin in the game where they are going to benefit if good things happen. So when they're taking a shower in the morning thinking about this, they're thinking about your business and not something else.
Yeah. With equity though, right? Not cash.
Right. Yes, not cash. Ideally without cash, right?
Yeah.
You give them some equity because now they're thinking, equity allows you to think. So cash would not allow you to think long term. It's a different mindset. You have equity in the business. You want people aligned with your equity.
Yeah.
So give them equity so that they can think proportionately. But now they're thinking. Now when you email them a couple times in the same month, you're not thinking, oh, I feel guilty for emailing them, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go through this. I have an issue. I need to ask them a question. I don't feel bad. This was the deal we made.
Yeah.
Right? I gave you some equity. I haven't called you in 3 months, right? And now I'm going to...
win-win for everyone.
That's right. It's a win-win, and they can help you with their experiences and the time that they've had in there, and hopefully to avoid those fatal decisions, right? The potentially fatal ones.
Wow, Josh, you have so much wisdom, and I would really want to invite you to come back again to really share about, we'll speak more about what is, in entrepreneur, because I think there's so much unknown territory that a lot of entrepreneurs are just not sure how to deal with or how to get into. So incredible wisdom. So, but today I just do want to acknowledge you and thank you so much for being here and share such an open heart story, because I can just hear there's so much challenges. There's so much difficult moment rising up, but you say yes, you move forward, you continue to do the right thing, even though the time are hard. And I want to acknowledge you for that and continue to serve your people, your customers, and follow that heart, follow that, really the idea to democratize and allow everybody all rising up together through entrepreneurship, through investing, through the empowerment of all. So thank you for all you do, Josh. What an amazing story.
Thank you. It's been a joy to be here, and you've been a joy to be with. So thanks for inviting me and for having me here, and we're happy to come back sometime too.
I will love that. So with that, thank you. And thank you everybody for tuning in today. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. And I cannot wait to see you all next time. Bye, guys.